Imagine you're staring at a massive $1,500 repair bill, and it's for a 22-year-old air conditioner that honestly barely works anymore.
Right, the kind that just actively drains your wallet every single month.
Exactly. I mean, it wastes electricity. You literally can't find replacement parts for it. And the worst part is it doesn't even keep your house cool.
Oh yeah, the absolute
But
worst.
then, the technician standing right there in your backyard tells you, hey, it's time to replace this thing. And you cross your arms, shake your head, and just say no.
Which is wild, right?
It is. Like, why do we do that? Why do human beings cling so fiercely to broken things that actively, make our lives worse?
It is such a phenomenal question. And answering it actually requires looking outside the usual places we'd expect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we normally expect these profound insights about human behavior to come from a lab, right?
Yeah.
Or some neuroscientist, or a peer-reviewed study.
Right, right.
But honestly, the rawest, most accurate data on how our minds actually work, it often comes from the people who see us in our most unguarded, vulnerable environments.
Which brings us to the really fascinating source material we are jumping into for you today. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
We are doing a deep dive into an audio script from a man named Dave Hartzell. And Dave has spent 45 years running an HVAC company, so, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning out in Kingfisher, Oklahoma.
45 years. That is a lot of service calls.
A massive amount. For 4.5 decades, he's been walking into homes to diagnose broken machinery. But reading through his notes, I actually found myself pausing.
Why is that?
Because it made me realize he has accidentally been diagnosing us. Like, tradespeople are essentially frontline behavioral scientists.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree with that.
Right, because we let them into our private spaces, we strip away the public facade, and they get this front row seat to how our brains interact with the physical world around us.
They really do. I mean, Dave has spent a lifetime watching people project their internal emotional states onto external objects in their homes.
Yeah.
And when you do that for 45 years, you learn just as much about human attachment as you do about, refrigerant and compressors.
Definitely.
And Dave starts his observations by outlining this psychological concept that applies to everything in your house. Long before we even get to the heavy machinery in the backyard, he calls it the background hum.
The background hum, yeah, he uses the example of an old receipt from 1987.
Or, the pile of unsorted mail on the kitchen counter.
Exactly, or those boxes in the corner of the garage that you have been meaning to go through for like 3 years now.
We all have those boxes.
Right. Dave points out that when your space is cluttered with those lingering objects, your brain is actually constantly processing that low-level stimulation.
Yeah, it acts as a continuous background hum of unfinished business.
So why does that happen?
Well, what's fascinating here is that to understand it, we have to look at the actual mechanisms of human memory.
Okay.
In psychology, there is this concept known as the Zeigarnik effect.
The Zeigarnik effect.
Right. It basically dictates that the human brain remembers interrupted or incomplete tasks significantly better than completed ones.
Oh, wow. So the mail isn't just mail.
Exactly. A pile of mail isn't just paper. To your brain, it is an unresolved threat. It is an incomplete task. So your nervous system actually allocates continuous mental energy to monitor it.
Wait, really? So your brain is literally burning calories just keeping that old receipt on standby?
Yes. It is not just sitting there harmlessly. It's actively demanding a tiny sliver of your attention every single day.
Whether you are consciously looking at it or not.
Precisely. And Dave notes that the people holding onto these items aren't doing it out of laziness.
Right.
The objects have become proxies. Like they're proxies for a person's identity, for their sense of safety, or just a specific era of their past.
So they're tied up in who we are.
Very much so. Memory is intrinsically tied to the physical environment. When you go to throw that 1987 receipt away, the primitive part of your brain sends out a distress signal.
Wow.
Yeah, it basically equates losing the physical object with permanently losing the memory or the piece of identity attached to it.
I have this plastic bin in my basement full of tangled, obsolete computer cables from the early 2000s.
Oh, do we all?
I don't even own the devices they plug into anymore, but every time I try to throw them out, I feel this weird, irrational resistance.
It's that distress signal.
It really is. It's like having too many tabs open on a web browser.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. Even if you aren't looking at those tabs, they are quietly draining your battery in the background. Or, it's like driving with the emergency brake slightly engaged.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you can still move the car forward and go about your day, but the engine is whining, you're burning twice the fuel, and the brake pads are just slowly turning to dust.
That bin of cables is literally an engaged emergency brake in your mind. That's a perfect way to visualize cognitive load.
Yeah.
Your brain is dragging that friction around all day long. And Dave points out that when people finally do clear out that physical clutter, they experience a measurable physiological shift.
A physical shift from cleaning a room.
Yeah. Cortisol, which is your primary stress hormone, literally drops.
That's incredible.
You remove the unfinished business, the brain reclaims that wasted energy, and people report that they can suddenly think straight again.
But, that background hum doesn't just apply to old receipts on your desk or cables in the basement.
No, it scales up.
It scales way up. It applies to the biggest, most expensive, invisible appliance in your entire house. The HVAC system.
This is where Dave's notes get so good.
Yeah, right. This is where his observations go from just interesting to profoundly revealing. Because if we attach our identity to a piece of paper, how do we handle a 3-ton piece of heavy machinery?
We handle it with extreme emotional resistance.
Yeah, we do.
Dave talks about going out on service calls and finding AC units that are 19, 20, or 22 years old.
Which is ancient in HVAC years.
Exactly. These machines are massive financial liabilities. There are multiple efficiency standards behind modern equipment, and yet homeowners will flat out refuse to replace them.
Yeah, they'll tell Dave things like, well, I got us through the bad ice storm of 2007.
Yes, they hold on to that history.
But wait, I get being sentimental about your grandmother's rolling pin or maybe an old concert t-shirt. But an air conditioner,
No, it sounds crazy.
it's a loud metal box sitting in the dirt outside. Why on earth do we personify a utility?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, to your primitive brain, it is not a utility. It is the modern hearth.
The hearth, like a fireplace.
Exactly. If we look at evolutionary biology, the forces that keep us alive are fire to keep the deadly cold out and shade to keep the deadly heat at bay.
Oh, I see.
The air conditioner is the literal provider of survival and comfort for your family. When a homeowner looks at that aging unit and recalls the severe ice storm of 2007, they aren't evaluating energy efficiency.
No, they're feeling a bond.
Right. Their brain is saying, this machine protected my children when the environment was actively hostile.
So replacing it feels like a genuine risk to them.
Exactly.
You're taking a proven survivor, a known protector, and swapping it out for a completely unknown entity.
Exactly that. The primitive, survival-focused parts of our brain always prioritize the familiar over the optimal.
Huh.
To that part of your brain, optimizing for electricity costs is a luxury, but keeping the machine that didn't let you freeze to death, that's a necessity.
But the reality is, holding on to that outdated survival mechanism carries a massive physical cost.
It really does.
The emotional cost of letting go is high, but as we dive deeper into Dave's notes, he reveals that keeping this obsolete equipment creates a very different kind of clutter.
Physical clutter.
Yeah, it creates invisible clutter in the very air you breathe.
And the mechanical breakdown of an aging system is stark. When Dave opens up a neglected 20-year-old unit, he isn't just looking at inefficient parts. He's looking at biological hazards and electrical degradation.
Right, like he mentions pitted contacts that are arcing electricity.
Yes. When a contact gets pitted, it doesn't close smoothly anymore. So the electricity actually arcs across the gap.
Which sounds dangerous.
It is. That arcing creates microscopic metal dust and ozone.
So it is actively generating pollutants inside your equipment.
Yes. And it gets worse. Take a dirty evaporator coil and a plug drain line.
Okay.
The coil's entire job is to pull humidity out of your house. But when it's dirty and the water can't drain, that dark, damp metal box becomes a literal breeding ground for mold and bacteria.
Oh, gross.
And then the blower motor kicks on and blasts those spores, along with years of accumulated dust and allergens from an overdue filter, directly through the ductwork and into the lungs of everyone in the house.
See, that completely changes the definition of clutter for me.
How so?
Well, we usually think of clutter as stuff we trip over, right? Like books piled high, toys left on the stairs, clothes draped over a chair.
Right, invisible stuff.
But Dave is proving that clutter can literally be suspended in the air around us.
It's invisible clutter.
Exactly. And he states this absolute truth that I think everyone listening really needs to hear. Your HVAC system is either cleaning your air or it is adding to the problem. There is no neutral position.
That lack of a neutral position is exactly why routine maintenance has such a profound impact.
Right.
When Dave performs a proper tune-up, he is extracting that suspended clutter. He's scrubbing the biological matter off the coils, clearing the standing water out of the drain lines, and tightening those electrical contacts so they stop arcing.
He's basically removing the physical equivalent of that psychological background hum we talked about.
Exactly. And Dave notes that the most telling part isn't even the drop in the electric bill. It's the somatic response from the homeowners.
The somatic response.
Yeah, the physical feeling in their bodies. Customers will walk inside after a tune-up and tell them the house just feels different.
Oh, wow.
Because our nervous systems are incredibly attuned to our environments. When the air is genuinely clean, when that microscopic friction of metal dust and the subtle straining noise of a dying motor are gone, your nervous system registers that the environment is unburdened.
So the physical relief people feel is their body recognizing that a subtle biological and auditory threat has just been neutralized.
Precise.
But, a tune-up can only do so much. We have to look at the inevitable reality of what happens when the system is undeniably broken and toxic.
Right, when it's past the point of return.
Yeah. Dave outlines systems that are completely done. Like the heat exchanger is physically cracked, which risks carbon monoxide leaks.
Terrifying.
Or the compressor is pulling dangerous amounts of amperage just to start up. The machine has basically given every useful hour it had to give.
It's dead.
It's dead. So when it is that far gone, why is making the decision to replace it so agonizing for people?
Because of the limbo. And that agonizing limbo is something Dave has observed thousands of times over his career.
Yeah.
Homeowners will just keep patching the system. They'll pay for temporary fixes, hoping the machine will hold on for just one more summer.
Just one more season.
Right. But Dave's 45-year conclusion is absolute here. Every single customer who kept patching and hoping regretted the wait. Every single one.
Wow.
But the moment they finally made the call and decided to replace the unit, they felt an overwhelming sense of profound relief.
Let's talk about the specific scenario of adding refrigerant to a dying system, because Dave brings up this obsolete R22 refrigerant.
Oh, yes.
He literally calls adding it dead money. Why is it dead money?
Because an air conditioning system is a closed loop. The refrigerant travels in a sealed circuit, changing from liquid to gas and back again to move heat out of your house.
Okay, a closed loop.
If the system is low on R22, it means there is a physical hole in that sealed circuit. It is leaking. So when a technician adds more refrigerant, they are not fixing the machine.
Wait, so you are just subscribing to a leak?
Exactly.
You're renting a few months of cold air at an extortionate price, knowing full well it is going to bleed out into the atmosphere again.
Precisely. And because R22 is an obsolete, environmentally damaging chemical that is literally no longer manufactured, the cost of that temporary rental is astronomical.
That's insane.
You are literally pumping money into a hole. But the resistance to stopping that cycle brings us right back to the psychology of decision-making.
Right.
The relief the customer feels when they finally say replace it does not come from having a nice new clean space afterward. The research on cognitive load shows that the relief comes from the act of deciding itself.
So what does this all mean? The actual moment the decision is made is what brings relief.
Yes.
Not the installation day weeks later, but the moment the choice is finalized.
Yes. Remember how the brain treats unresolved issues like a predator in the bushes?
Oh, like the incomplete task?
Exactly. When you are constantly patching an old system, you are living in a perpetual state of threat monitoring. You go to sleep wondering if the AC will fail during the upcoming heat wave.
You wonder if that strange noise means the compressor is dying today.
Right, and that is a continuous exhausting drip of cortisol.
So the anticipation of the failure is infinitely heavier than the actual failure itself.
Exactly. Making the decision to replace the unit closes the open loop. The brain suddenly realizes the threat has been decisively handled. The limbo is finally over.
That makes so much sense.
The mental resources that were being hoarded to monitor the failing machine are instantly released, shutting off the background cortisol drip before the new unit is even unboxed.
We have spent a lot of time exploring the mechanisms here, right? Like why our brains resist, why indecision taxes our nervous system, the evolutionary roots of our attachments.
It's deep stuff.
It is. But Dave doesn't leave us with just theory. He provides a highly practical, rigid framework for knowing exactly when to cut ties.
Which is so helpful.
Because having an external, objective set of rules is the best way to bypass the emotional attachment we naturally feel.
He lays out very precise metrics that take the emotion completely out of the equation.
Yeah, let's go through them.
First, he gives the rules for when to fix a system. If the unit is under 15 years old, has been reasonably maintained, and you have a specific fixable problem where the repair costs less than half of what a total replacement would cost you fix it.
Okay, pretty straightforward. But his let it go metrics are where the boundaries get really firm.
Definitely.
Dave says it is time to let go if the system is 15 years or older and suffers a significant failure.
Right.
Or if you are staring at a repair bill of over $1,500 on a system that old.
Also a clear sign.
Another metric. If you have already had to repair it twice in the last 2 years. And of course, the ultimate red flag we just talked about, if the system runs on that obsolete R22 refrigerant.
And, for the people who are still completely paralyzed by indecision, who don't know enough about the mechanics to even apply those rules, Dave uses his $111 diagnostic fee as a tool for truth.
A tool for truth.
Yeah, the fee covers a complete, unvarnished look at the system. It forces an objective, mechanical evaluation of a problem the homeowner has turned into a subjective, emotional burden.
But what elevates this entire script from just a manual on air conditioning to a masterclass in human psychology is Dave's ultimate thesis.
It really is beautiful.
It is. He says that the people who are best at letting go, the ones who make the call and feel that instant relief, they don't care less than the people who hold on.
Right.
They aren't cold or unfeeling.
This raises an important question about what they actually do understand. They have simply realized a fundamental truth about human capacity.
Which is?
The people who successfully let go understand that what they are making room for matters significantly more than what they are holding on to. In the context of their home, they're making room for a system that actually does the job, runs clean, and doesn't drain their bank account and their daily attention.
I can't help but apply Dave's HVAC replacement rules to practically everything else in life.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about the 15-year, $1,500 rule. We can use that for bad habits, or old, unreliable cars, or even toxic relationships.
It works perfectly.
Right. If you have been trying to patch a dynamic with someone for years, and it is constantly costing you massive amounts of emotional capital, maybe it is time to realize the parts are obsolete.
Yeah, the dynamic is just a leaking closed loop.
And the energy you keep adding is dead money.
The mechanics of letting go are identical, whether we are discussing a 3-ton piece of machinery, a personal mindset, or a relationship.
Totally.
When you hold on to something past its useful life simply because it feels familiar, you are paying a daily tax.
Yeah.
You are actively tolerating a background hum of problems that pulls your focus, energy, and resources away from everything else you want to accomplish.
It's exhausting.
It is. Making room for functionality, for health, and for peace is always worth the temporary discomfort of letting go.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's bring the focus right back to you.
Yeah, think about your own space.
Whether it is an old receipt from 1987 buried in a desk drawer, a cluttered garage that you subconsciously monitor every time you walk past it, or a 22-year-old AC unit running on discontinued holding on carries a very real, measurable cognitive and financial tax.
A heavy tax.
Letting go is incredibly hard because our primitive brains are wired to hold on to the past for a sense of safety. We inherently want to keep the things that survived the storms with us.
Oh, we do.
But closing the loop and making the hard decision is the absolute only way to stop that exhausting background hum.
The relief is waiting for you on the other side of the decision.
Yeah.
You just have to be willing to stop paying the tax of indecision.
Which leaves us with one final lingering thought for you to explore on your own. If it's true that our brains naturally resist replacing old, inefficient physical systems simply because they kept us safe during past storms, what obsolete internal systems or beliefs are you currently running on?
That's a great question.
What old mental habits or emotional defense mechanisms are no longer manufactured, actively draining your daily energy and quietly polluting the air in your own mind? It might be time for a diagnostic.